Hello and welcome to my guide on how to take your baby hiking with you to the Wave, Arizona. The Wave is a famous hike in northern Arizona near the border of Utah that features really cool wave-like patterns in sandstone rock and awesome colors like reds and oranges. Believe it or not, there is not an age limit for hiking the Wave, so you can absolutely take your infant, your baby, your toddler, and I hope this video gives you the confidence to do so. If you do want to check out our vlog, which shows the reality of taking my 10-month-old baby girl RJ with me to hike the Wave on an epic 8.5-mile adventure, I will link that in the description. I'll also include in the description everything we're going to talk about today, as well as relevant links. Now let's start with not the most fun category, the permit process. So unfortunately, you do need to acquire a permit to hike in the Coyote Buttes North area where this is located. You can do so through a lottery system, either a daily lottery that you can apply for or an advanced lottery. I will include the recreation.gov websites that covers all kinds of information on how the lottery system works. I will note that it is hard to get a permit and you need to be consistent. We were one of the lucky ones. It did not take us a long time. We got it through the daily lottery. However, we ran into folks and they said it has taken them years. So be prepared for that, but it's so worth it. For the advanced lottery system, you're applying 4 months in advance from when you want to hike the Wave. For the daily lottery, I will note that this is a geo-fenced process. So this is for if you are in the vicinity of the Wave. There's actually a map on the recreation.gov website showing you their boundaries. You can use your mobile app and apply, and this is something you do 2 days prior to when you want to hike the Wave. So if you are staying, for example, in Page, Arizona or Kanab, Utah, and you're exploring for the week, you're on vacation and you want to try to get a permit, if you want, you can apply every single day. Just keep in mind, this is a 3-day process with the daily lottery. Day 1, you can apply from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You get a notification right at 7:15 p.m. if you have received a permit. Day number 2, you have to pick up the permit at a location. We got to pick either from Page, Arizona or a place in Kanab, Utah, and you have to be there right on time, 8:30 a.m., 8:31. Nope, you run the risk of them saying, I'm sorry, but we no longer are going to give you a permit. You also have a safety briefing session during that pickup time. And then day number 3 is when you can actually hike to the area. And you also receive that safety information when you go through the advanced lottery. One thing you might be wondering is, do I need to include my baby in the permit? Maybe they're not even walking at this point. Yes, you do. Every single person, including non-walking infants, need to be included. Fees are going to be a consideration. So when you apply for the lottery, there is a $6 non-refundable fee. And keep in mind that if you do get a permit, it's an extra $7 per person when you go through the acceptance process. A couple of day of considerations. You are going to want to bring both your permit and your ID. Your permit has a few parts. One part you're going to put in your car windshield area. Another part you actually attached to your backpack so that people out monitoring in the Coyote Buttes North area know you're supposed to be there. When it comes to traveling to the trailhead, know that after you turn off the highway, there's about 8.5 miles of unpaved dirt road. I have an all-wheel drive Mazda that had zero problem Baby had zero problem as well. We did have some fun sounds from her, which made us laugh so hard, but she was totally safe and sound in her car seat on this dirt road. From what we saw, most cars had no problem getting to the trailhead. However, if it is a snowy day, if it's a wet day, you might end up needing four-wheel drive or high clearance, so keep that in mind. And finally, there will be some trailhead check-in logistics. Be prepared right when you pull up. There's probably going to be a safety officer checking in with you to make sure you have your ducks in a row and your permit ready to go. And there's also a trail sign in. So you sign in right before the hike, you sign out when you get back to the trailhead, just so you can be accounted for your safety. And that brings us to our next category, which is safety and navigation when you're hiking in this area. There is not a set trail system, and so it is hard to navigate. Like I mentioned previously, you do receive a safety packet. That's going to include things like a route guide, pictures to reference of physical landmarks in the area, as well as GPS coordinates. However, I highly recommend, in addition to bringing this with you and reviewing it, to download offline maps. And I personally downloaded mine through the app All Trails. My dad was hiking this route with us, and he uses an app called Gaia GPS. To be honest, it was even nice to have both apps so we could double check our routes. And when you are downloading these tracks from online, keep in mind there's a lot of destinations in that area besides the wave. So if you just want to go to the wave and back, fantastic. That's around a 6.4 mile loop. However, there's also things like arches in the area, alcoves, there's things like dinosaur track sites. And so if you do want to hit all of these sites, you're going to want to make sure you're downloading all of the routes to these different areas. The next couple of things in this category: emergency communication device is super important, so that even if you have no cell service, you can connect through satellite to people in case of an emergency. This might look like having an external unit. My dad has used the Garmin InReach, for example, before. This might look like using your phone. We actually have a way through T-Mobile where we can connect to Starlink for satellite messaging. And on that note, if you are using your phone for navigation purposes, for emergency communication, please bring backup charger. Those types of apps seriously drain your battery, and you don't want to be in a situation where all of a sudden you're relying on this device and it dies unexpectedly. Next up, some of the foundational bones of what you should be bringing are gear list. First thing I'll note is you might be wondering, what about diapering supplies, feeding supplies? Well, extra baby items are coming next, so keep that in mind. But let's start this list with the basics: water and food. You are in the desert, and it is likely very hot. Of course, it depends on what time of year you go, but you're gonna wanna keep hydration in mind. It's recommended to bring at least 4 liters per person, as well as plenty of food. And of course, depending on age of baby, you're also gonna consider potentially water, solids for baby too. And we even keep more food and water in the car, so we have extra. Next up, first aid kit, and keeping in mind baby items. For example, I always keep smaller bandages and infant Tylenol in my first aid kit. Hiking shoes, comfortable hiking shoes. You do not want to do this in tennis shoes. I personally wear a Bose Bridger Ridge hiking boots. I absolutely love them. I feel confident on the trail even while carrying baby girl in my backpack. And a backpack on that note, and way to carry baby, right? So what I am sitting next to right now is actually a Deuter Kid Comfort Active backpack. I love the brand Deuter, find it to be the most comfortable out of all the different brands I've tried. And this doubles as my carrier, so baby RJ sits in this carrier. Although, depending on the age of your infant, you might even still be carrying them on your chest. I did that with my baby for a long time. We did hundreds of miles in her Ergo Baby while she was attached to my chest. And then I also had a backpack on the back as well. Sun protection, right? You see a theme. We're in the desert, it's sunny, it's hot. So that's going to include, of course, protection for you and baby. So that's going to look like sun hats, sunglasses, although RJ refuses to wear sunglasses at this point. So let me know if you have tips for that in the comments. It's also going to look like a sunshade for your carrier. So our backpack here, you can attach a sunshade, and we always go on every hike with that sunshade attached. And finally, baby safe sunscreen. In addition to being prepared for sunny moments, make sure you are prepared for other conditions like rain. Personally, we always bring rain gear no matter what the weather conditions look like. So both my dad and I have a cheap poncho that we got on Amazon that we always keep packed. And we have a rain cover that goes with this carrier, which is a phenomenal accessory if your carrier doesn't already come with it. And so not only does it protect RJ from the rain, it's awesome for wind. And bonus, we have found that it helps her sleep because her head rests against the side of the cover. Finally, clothing and being prepared for all kinds of weather conditions. So we went towards the end of April and it started out windy. So the desert can absolutely surprise you with that wind, y'all, especially if you hike above the wave. You're kind of going up to this plateau area, and sometimes even if it's not windy below, it's going to be windy higher up. So we started RJ in a long sleeve pant and sock outfit. Midday, when it got sunnier, we switched her to a onesie and shorts. And you know what? Even though it was a warm day, I still brought a light bunting outfit. So of course, clothing is going to depend on when you are hiking and what the weather conditions look like. So you might be in chillier conditions, bringing things like booties and mittens and beanies for your baby, as well as an even heavier bunting outfit, etc. Now let's get into the fun extra baby items, right? So not only do we have to pack all of that gear list, which is already a lot, we gotta pack stuff for the baby, and that is gonna include diapering. So what we do is use a zip-up packing cube to keep our diapering supplies separate, and we include the basic things like diapers and wipes, diaper cream, hand sanitizer. A couple of nice hacks that I will note is using dog poop bags as well. So when we finish diapering, we take the used diapers and wipes, put them in the doggy poop bag, and then throw it away when we get home. Additionally, think about how you're going to have kind of a changing station. So personally, we bring these, I think 16-inch by 16-inch microfiber towels, and we put this under baby's bottom, just so we have an extra layer of protection. And we also tend to change her on extra jackets, maybe the rain cover, maybe the outdoor blanket we brought, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Some folks, if they're in, harsher terrain, I've heard they'll even use like a fold up accordion pad that's smaller to put baby down on. So really whatever works for you, you might need to workshop this. And another one is feeding supplies. So as other things we've talked about, depends on the age of your baby. It depends on your situation. RJ is exclusively breastfed, so I will admit that makes packing things easier, but I do still bring a backup bottle with pre-measured water as well as pre-measured formula, so I can shake that up. So this is going to be very individualized. And speaking of individualized categories, next up is general comfort items for your little one. So for RJ, For example, we have toys in this category. We attach 2 toys on one side, 2 toys on the other side to the straps of the sunshade cover. And RJ then can just play with these here and there as we're hiking on the trail. Another thing that my little one loves is music. So when it is more crowded on the trail, I'll just sing to her if she's feeling fussy, needs some soothing, or if I know she needs to go down for a nap, I'll sing her sleepy time songs. But when it is more quiet, we actually have a Bluetooth speaker that you might be able to see on the strap of this backpack. And we'll even hook it up to our phone. I have some offline music downloaded and we'll play it out loud for RJ. This is really going to be based on your kiddo. Next up, this is an awesome gear hack where you can get, I got mine on Amazon for cheap, this little acrylic mirror. That way it's not as easily breakable, baby's not around glass, and it fits in my hip belt pocket. I just take it out and it's a way for me to check in on her. So I hold it up to the side, I can see her like a rear view mirror, and that way I just make sure that everything is looking good. So highly recommend that. And finally, this is kind of a bonus item, and we didn't always hike with this, but lately we've been taking this outdoor blanket that we can roll up tightly, and we typically attach it to the outside of my dad's backpack. And that way, when we have gotten to a destination, taking a break, it's just another layer where we can, play with baby, have lunch, etc. But are there plenty of times where she's just in the sand, on the slick rock, etc.? Absolutely. 2 more categories to go. Next up, let's talk about when you're actually on the trail. What are considerations there? So baby breaks. You are on baby time. You're probably taking more breaks than you are used to. So I recommend every 1.5 to 2 hours giving your baby some time out of the carrier to breathe, to explore, to play. Maybe you use that time for a feed, maybe use that time for a diaper change, etc. This might look different if your baby is knocked out cold in this carrier taking a nap, but especially if they are awake and alert, I definitely recommend keeping this in mind. Next up is extra hydration, both for you and your little one. So you might notice that your kiddo is thirstier, asking for liquids more. And for me, typically this coincides with when we take trail breaks about every 1.5 to 2 hours. I'm trying to offer RJ breast milk just to make sure she stays very hydrated out in the desert, out in that heat. Make sure you are chugging that water too. On to the nap plan. I really feel like I can make a video an hour long about napping on the trail and all those considerations. You know your baby best, so just keep in mind their nap rhythms while in the carrier. Ideally, you'll already have done some hikes with them in the carrier, so you have a sense. RJ does nap in this carrier, however, they're typically shorter naps, and I have found that she especially needs us to sing to her, for example, to get her down. You might be in a scenario where you're still only on contact naps, right? There have been times where we're midway through hiking to our destination and I am with RJ on my chest trying to get her down for a nap. And finally, total time and mileage. Like we talked about before, baby time is slower than you think. So for us, we ended up seeing more than just the wave. We saw Melody Arch. We also saw the alcove. We went to the second wave. Our total mileage was 8.5-ish, and we were out for around 8 hours. So be prepared for a long day, probably longer than you think. Now let's wrap up this how-to guide. I wanted to briefly touch on some post-hike recovery considerations. So similar to what we talked about before, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. I will say that again and again, right? So I have noticed that the day after a hike, RJ is even thirstier than we are hiking in the desert. And so I'm still essentially breastfeeding her on demand the day after a hike for sure. Next, Please rest and don't push yourself too hard. I have made the mistake of just kind of popping up the next morning and trying to go about my day like I didn't just do a huge hike with RJ. And my gosh, I will run myself into the ground when I do that. So please rest up. And on that note, also consider how you might need to re-regulate sleep and naps for baby. So RJ typically needs longer sleeps the day after a hike. So like I said, she takes shorter naps on the trail, and unfortunately it does mess with her natural rhythm a little bit. So we just keep in mind the following day that we want to get her extra sleep, extra comfort so she can re-regulate. Thank you so much, y'all, for tuning in to this video. I hope it helps you realize you absolutely can take your kiddo to hike the wave. It's an unforgettable experience. Highly recommend applying to that lottery and being consistent for the trip of a lifetime. Have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.